So how did you first get into music production? And like how did you get? Because you through your emails, you've been telling me, and I actually read through all the emails that we discussed like from the beginning, just so I can get prepared.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, yeah. So because you have quite a heavy musical background, like music theory and stuff quite heavily, but it's just the music production, which is a totally different world. So why did you want to get into making beats, and how did you get started making beats?
Okay. So the story started from my younger brother, but he did a electronic music production course at uni.
Okay.
And he has been in producing music, but using GarageBand on his laptop most of the time. And he only got FL Studio this year. So I was more like inspired by him.
And so you're using FL Studio on Mac, is what it sounds like. So ImageLine, the makers of FL Studio, they actually had an article back in the day. They actually said that like they'd never come out with a Mac version. Like it was just because of, I think they used Delphi, like that's like the coding language or something I remember reading. And then I remember they had an article and that's what they said. And then all of a sudden they came out with this huge release of like, we have a Mac beta. And it was like, what? Like, because that opens a huge another world for them, right? How did you like my beginner's book? Like, did you find it was helpful or because
So the first books I searched for are the beginner's books, but there are the authors out there as well. But when I found your book and I read it for the first time, I knew it was the one because it flows so well, and that really kick-started my music production.
And then your first course, you took that beat walkthrough series, right? Is that the first course you took with me?
Yes.
Okay.
So the pathways for me learning FL is, so I read all your books or the podcast, and then I decided to take like a teaser course. So like you said, there are already heaps of YouTubers doing what type beats out there, and a lot of people doing the deconstruction of hit songs, and but that's not gonna be very helpful for beginner like myself. It's not very useful. That's more like a showing off of how good you are.
And it's also advanced. So it's like, you might pick some things up, but you're not picking up like how to start, how to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. But when I took your walkthrough bits, it started building up a project from scratch all the way to the end, and seeing you how to add, elements step by step, how to finish a whole song. That's very illustrative and intuitive. Yeah. But about halfway through, I realized this is getting too difficult for me.
Oh, okay.
Especially when it reaches from creating beats to arranging, song arrangement, to, mixing, more post-production stuff. It's getting a bit difficult for me, and I kind of stopped there.
Okay.
But then I decided to take your beginner course. I decided to study this actually, brick by brick, step by step. Yeah.
I just talked about this in the last interview, but so I first started with Nexus 2. Nexus 2 was like a game changer for me. And the reason I say that is because it was just a matter of picking a sound and you make a melody. And with Nexus, that's kind of like the pros and cons. So the pros is like you can learn to make music fast. You can learn to make your melodies and your beats, but you're not learning sound design, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, if you're the producer and people like your music, they don't care if you know how to make the sound. They just know that you can make a good beat. And that's what, as a fan or as a listener, that's what they want. So
I'm just looking at your course pathway structure.
Okay, yeah. And
it's
so
kind of my homepage for my browser.
Yeah, that's interesting because the other member, his name's Michael. So I just did an interview with him, and him too. He said that he likes these pathways.
Yeah, the pathways arranged in a way according to the difficulty of the lessons.
If you go to the intermediate, are you finding it a little difficult?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little gap there when I transit from
So I think the transition piece is going to be this beat from scratch, so that you're going to see how it'll all go together. I think that's going to be the kind of gap that that's hopefully like the missing element. Because like like I said, I want to bring you guys in to like, if I'm going to make a beat, and I actually want to take my time on it, like in a lot of the courses, I've always kind of rushed through like the melodies, or I've rushed through like kind of like the drum loop, just so that I can get the point across. Because as like when you're making a beat, it's like, you got to spend some time, like, like, oh, I don't like that. Or you do like it, but later on in the song, you realize like that's kind of repetitive. I like it, but maybe we're going to mix it up. But like in the courses, I don't really spend so much time in like making a dope beat. I'm more about getting,
of course,
the stuff across. And if someone wants to listen, like I have my beat tapes, right? So they're called beat tapes by GratuiTous, and I'm actually working on volume 9 here. So that's coming out really soon.
Yeah, I've downloaded all your beat tapes and listening to them as well.
Yeah. So from volume 1 to 5, that was like Nexus 2. I used Nexus 2 so heavily on those. And then I started realizing about that dongle, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to handcuff myself to this one piece of software that if I, because like if I go on a plane with a laptop and you bring the dongle, if you lose the dongle, it's like you have to buy Nexus again. But again, with Nexus 3, that's been removed, so that's a huge game changer again. Cool, man. I think we should check out your beat.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Just for everyone to know that, so Joe sent me this, maybe about like a month ago, and I liked it. I thought it was really cool. And then I just said in our emails before we had this little interview, I was like, let's check this out. Okay, so if I hit play, you let me know if you can hear this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm just going to turn it down just a little bit. Okay, we'll go full screen. Cool, man. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it here. So, like, did you even really use FL Studio before you found out about like my books or anything? Like, did you actually start reading before you tried?
I read about your books first, and then I tried. Only when I started watching your lesson, the beginner's course.
Yep.
I started trying out FL.
Okay, so that's awesome. So it's like you've actually been learning with me, like, through my content, like, and this is where you got, and I think this is really good, man. What I wanted to talk about is like, I could see that, you have your structure, this would be like kind of like your chorus, right? And you have your transition, just like I talk about. Yeah. But again, like, I talk about like audio painting, right? And you got to think about like, from the actual mindset of the listener as they are, listening to your track. Right. And you did, man, dude, you're learning good. I think that this is awesome. Like, for 2 months, and you're really dedicated to the learning, especially through our emails. So like, I really appreciate your emails. Like that goes a long way for me.
So back then I haven't learned the sense in your course, the mixer workflow.
Yep.
So I haven't done the first 5 or 6 bass channel.
Yep.
Doing all the effects like reverb or distortion, delay.
Again, I always kind of teach, like, you don't want to use them as a crutch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't just want to like always just kind of go to them. You want to use them to kind of like enhance. So like once you're already kind of mixing and doing your thing, then you can kind of route your stuff to it. And like if you add your drums to like the distortion or something like that, like instantly, like your drums are like, oh wow, like they just that little extra crunch, right? A little extra hit.
Yeah, and I didn't know much about EQ, compression filter back then as well. I'm actually, just to give you an update, at the moment I'm learning your course of effectively using EQ.
Okay, Yeah.
It's very useful.
I was going to say, and the thing is like, it gets easier. So like,
yes.
So like, see for me, like, man, when I first started, it was like, oh man, this is intense. And then you were saying recently, you actually just quit your job. So you're doing this full time right now, right? Like you're dedicated to learning this.
Yeah. Apart from sleeping and eating, all my mind and body is on.
So man, it's interesting because like, you know, it's not something I recommend because like it's a huge like life-changing
sacrifice
thing. Right.
Yeah.
But that's actually something I did too. So when I was an electrician in my early years, I think I was like 3 or 4 years into being an electrician. And then like, I was like, man, like this is not who I am. And I literally just like quit one day. I went in and I just like quit. And I came home and I told my dad, I was like, man, like I just quit being an electrician. My dad's like, what? Like, cause like I was making beats for probably about 4 years as well. And then I started up Beat Struggles. That was like my first website and like, I didn't even know how to do anything with websites. Like that was like the first, it was raw. It was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I started writing tons and tons of articles and like learning like how to write. And I did that for like 2 years. So I did Beat Struggles for like 2 years. I created all these tutorials. And that was at a time for me when, or like even with YouTube, where there wasn't that many people. There was some, like there was like war beats. And if you don't know war beats, like you have to look up war beats because that's like, man, back in the day, like that was the good stuff. Like back in the day, like that's how everyone learned. Everyone learned from NFX. So I have a huge shout out to him. Yeah. Okay. I did music for about 2 years of like trying to online business, trying to sell things. And like, you know, I just couldn't figure it out. Like I wasn't able to be successful doing it. And honestly, there was a lot of learning I had to do too. Like, you know, as a producer, you know, as a person, as a business person. So I went back to electrical, right? So then I was able to save up, you know, I bought a home. Like I was like, okay, like, yeah. But then still it's like, well, now I'm working as an electrician and I have this mortgage and it's like, but I want to do music. Right. So your pathway is very similar to like, cause you were saying, you know, you had a pretty good job before, like, you know, you're doing good, but this is something that you're passionate about. You're working hard towards.
One thing I would really like to share with you is if you think of my age, I'm turning 30 this year.
Okay.
You know, compared to most beat makers or rappers out there, starting at their early 20s, even dropping out from high schools.
Yeah,
they could become way more successful and famous than where I am today. That's why I know time is priceless for myself. And I am so eager to absorb every knowledge, technique, everything I can with this very limited time frame. I literally just started in June this year. That's the first time I touched FL. I knew that my growth in this pathway of music production has to be exponential. Like, otherwise, there's nothing left for me in the industry. So I'm just giving myself about half a year to 1 year's time to see, you know, how high I can achieve.
But so my recommendation is that's cool and that's totally good and that's awesome. You have a game plan. But I would say if you grind it out for the 6 months, year, you're going to learn so much because that's what I did. And I learned so much. I learned so much. Like it was like, that was my life, like music. And like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, you know, I remember looking at those EQ charts of like, you know, where your instrument should fit in the frequency spectrum, all those, right? And like start learning about like different frequency areas, like how, if you have too much of this, it could be muddy or, you know, and I remember like, that's when I first started. And if you grind it out for the 6 months, year, like you're going to learn so much so that if you do go back to a regular job and you come back and this music's on the side, it's so much easier because you grinded out so much knowledge and, you know, and like, and every single time you sleep, like the next day you wake up, things get easier. You know, it's just hard. Today it might be hard, but like in a week, all of a sudden you're like, I'm progressing.
Exactly. I mean, you talk about the producer's block very often in your podcast. I'm experiencing it almost like weekly and even daily. I want to give up every day, but then once I pass that threshold, I could feel like I've evolved I've upgraded myself.
And something that's really cool with audio is audio hasn't changed that much in like the past like 20, 30 years. We talk about video, like, right, you know, like before it was 1080p, now it's 4K. Now they're starting to move into like 8K. In order for that visual, you need like, you know, better graphics card or better whatever, like to actually support that upgrade. Whereas like music, it's like, man, it's been MP3 for like how long? And then Apple has like AAC, but like these codecs or these formats, it's like, they're a standard. Like WAV, like that's been on your CD player forever. And it hasn't changed. So what I'm trying to say is like, you know, once you learn the knowledge and once you build that foundation, it's like things don't change too much in audio. Like they're starting to maybe a little bit, but not much. And it's cool because once you learn the basics, then it's what you want to do, what you want to create. And then it's, you know, you're actually flowing.
Yeah. So relating back to what you just said, that getting the basics right is very important.
Yes.
And for people whose time is precious, like me, finding the right learning tools, resources, and courses are the most important thing. And I'm so grateful that I find you, you know, on the internet, instead of getting lost, you know, in all those random topics, free resources. It's useless. It's just wasting your time. But what you've provided and offered on your website has helped me get up and running so fast, much faster than average people. And it just helps me save so much time and money as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, dude, man, the awesome testimonial, like so cool. But so, did you experience the first version of the website?
Yes.
Because, you know, as I did the actual revamp of the website, like, man, there was like, I could only spend so much time in certain areas.
I think for times it's okay to rush a little bit to get the results.
Yeah.
It's like your books. You talk about it when you rush it, the first draft, and then you went back sort of and adjust a lot of things. And I could tell that's a really good book. It's a classic. It's going to be there for a very long time.
Good. Yeah. You know, no, man, that beginner's one. Yeah. Like I said, like I remember, like I wrote it and I remember I was still I was still an electrician. So like I was, you know, balancing my time. And then I remember like, I remember reading through it and I was just like, man, this is so choppy. Like it was all over the place. So like, I remember like restructuring it all. And I was like, dude, this is a lot of work, but it was worth, like, you know, if you find it was worth it, like, that's awesome.
It presents so much value to me. I literally read it for 3 times.
Really? Yeah.
You know? Not just one time.
Yeah.
I went through it a few times in, you know, for the first week. And then I, you know, other times I went through, I always went back and then, you know, pick up the points. It's really good. It's just, the best beginner guide I find.
And so those exclusive audio drums, how do you like them?
Oh, yeah, I bought the trio bundle you recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're so authentic. You know,
man, did you
so real?
Did you read the story of how I met Xavier? Because I think you might have grabbed the bundle before I released the new web. Did you grab it before I released the new website?
Yes.
I wrote it explaining how I met Xavier. He submitted a beat to a competition I had.
So he already owned all that drum kits, right? When he did that beat on the website?
No, I don't think so. No. So he submitted that beat. Okay. I used to run Beat Struggles, right? Where it was like a website to learn FL Studio tutorials. And then, you know, for every once in a while, I'd throw like a little contest. I'd put a contest on. And so what happened with Xavier is, you know, everyone was submitting. There's probably like maybe 7 to 10 submissions. And then like pretty much last day, Xavier submitted his beat. And like the votes came in super, and dude, the votes came in super fast, and he took first place in like a day. And then from there, I was just like, dude, like that was so cool. And me and him always kept in contact, but he didn't have exclusive audio at that time. And it was maybe 4 years after he submitted that entry into the contest that he's like, hey man, I'm going to come out with my own site. So then he started exclusive audio. And that's where, you know, he started making all these different kits. And then he came out with Drum Bundle Trio. And, you know, so I've been using his sounds for so long. Like, and Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I'm happy that you have them because I'm so happy with them myself. Like, you go through, there's so much variety and so many sounds. Like,
yeah, it's one of the best sound pack I got.
Awesome.
In my samples.
I always tell people that when you're looking for sound kits, you're looking for variety, you're looking for high quality and versatility.
Yeah.
But then, sometimes in these tutorials, you see people and they have like so many sound kits.
Yeah.
And you're just
quantity.
Like, yeah. And like that's cool, but you have to bring that around with you always. And like, man, like 2,300 sounds is so many. And if you take like 3 sounds and layer them and EQ them, it's like you're never going to get the same sound. So it's like...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So...
I learned that from your drum, the drum beat lesson. Yeah.
Cool.
Layering, creating variety.
Yeah.
Panning, velocity,
safe spots. Is that the one?
Yeah, and the one before. Safe spot is the more intermediate.
So that was foundational drum loop basics.
Drum loop,
so that
basics.
Course, you saw the actual slideshow. And at the beginning of that course, I said, hey, this is GratuiTous from Beat Struggles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, see? Yeah. So like, that was when I first started kind of getting into courses. It was through Beat Struggles, near the end of Beat Struggles.
Last thing I want to, praise about your course is that you keep your videos short and concise.
Okay.
Getting to the point. I also, learn from, other people as well. Sometimes it's
always
very lengthy and time wasting. Sometimes a lot of rubbish talk, especially those live video, 1-2 hours long, showing you how to make a beat. It's
too much.
Yeah. So that's another good thing about your content.
You just got to learn the software, which is what you're doing. And once you learn the software and you're starting to make your beats, now it gets to the point of, well, what do you want to do with your music? Is it a hobby? If it's a hobby, well, just share it with your friends and be whoever you want to be. But if it's a business, it's like, well, different mindset, right? I'll show you one of my beats if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm working on my new beat tape. And so I've just
Volume 9.
Yeah, well, you got it, man. So let me just play this track for you and let me know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a dance beat. Make it big.
I like the tropical feel. Building up?
Yeah.
Still the build up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then right here's my transitions.
Yeah. Into the chop? Is it the chop?
Right here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. So I'm just working on that one right now, and then here's like my mixer. This is a pretty heavy song. Like in terms of
how many tracks? 40 plus.
Yeah, a lot of it's just kind of more routing and like bussing. Here's like all these inserts that are going to like a subgroup.
Subgroup, yeah. You
and
find
then
that a lot.
Yeah, well, it's just so easy to mix, right? And then if there is a problem with one of these sounds, well, then I'll just kind of turn down the volume.
I just thought about a little piece of advice. When I watch through your courses, you like to use filter a lot.
Yeah, it's my go-to, man.
Filter,
it's my go-to.
Everything.
Yeah.
You upgraded.
Yeah, I finally did, man. I finally did. Like I've been on the Pro Q version 1 for so long because like it was awesome. They're so good.
But for newbies like me, we don't have much money to invest at the beginning. I wanted to see you, showing people how to use, like parametric.
And I totally get what you're saying. But I think my teaching approach will still apply to no matter what tool you use. And the reason why I choose to use them is just because it's how I flow and it's what I know. And so when I'm working and when I'm teaching, the FL Studio stuff is cool when you don't have anything, but in order to progress, these tools, like, and it's not even for the sound, it's the workflow. Like, right? Like when we open up like Pro Q here, man, it's like, so I can just like, I can listen just to like certain areas, right? It's like, so for example, here, it's like, okay. And then like before and after, I don't know. It's just like the actual workflow. You know, when I purchased the first version of these tools, it was like a one go. And it was just like, and then I used them for so long. Like I've used them for like 6 years.
So when you use most of your sounds from synthesizers, right? From VSTi plugins.
Yeah.
Synthesizer. Okay.
Well, the reason I do, because again, the last song was from a guitar note, right? And I made that transition pretty much after I realized like the dongle. And so, and it was kind of like for like the first 5 years of my production, I was using Nexus and like more like, and I was just making high quality, just, you know, from high quality synths. And then in the latest 5 years of my productions, it's been more about finding a new way to make beats. And that's where I started doing the single guitar note. I started, you know, learning about Citrus Serum and Silence One. And then that's when I learned about sound design. Because before then, I never knew about sound design. When it came about, like so you already understand about envelopes. Like, man, I didn't understand that stuff until like a couple of years in because I had Nexus. So it kind of handcuffed me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I learned that from one of the very first videos.
Okay.
We talk about a little bit about ADSR and
yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man, because it's like that's how audio works, and like it's weird because I don't think there's really anything else in this world where like you have an envelope, and it follows that, and it's like, what is this? Like I can't relate. But like I said, man, you already know about envelopes, like just the mindset of how it works, right? You have your attack, so how long it takes to get to the maximum value, right? And like, so by you having that, man, like you're gonna progress super fast.
I think you're very successful in online teaching in the FL Studio. Yeah, I think you're the top three, at least top three.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Teacher on this. Yeah, I couldn't find any better. Yeah. I was actually a bit curious. Are we around the same age?
We are.
I can't tell by the look.
I'm 30 years old. One thing that's really interesting, man, is I was excited to turn 30. And I say that because when I was in the construction industry, like, man, the construction industry is a weird industry. It's like you become a stronger person. Like you're around a lot of different types. It is, man. When I wasn't 30, you know, you always felt like a baby kind of on the job site. I don't know how to explain it. You're just kind of young. And when you're 30, it's like, it's a number that's like, you know, you are an adult now. Like, you know, your jump is a big jump. Like, see, I took that jump when I was quite young. Right? 23, 22, right? Yeah. And so you're doing this at a stage. But the thing is, man, like, you know, you can always go back to what you're doing probably or find something. Like, you know, you seem like pretty smart, right? You seem good with like your money and being able to hold your own, right? A lot of people, you know, they aren't, you know? So by you doing this, like this might just be what you need even as a person. Like even if you don't continue to, you know, do anything with your music, sometimes this is what you as a person need to do, because it's what I needed to do. And like my dad didn't understand, and he still kind of doesn't understand. Like he supports what I'm doing because he sees like what's going on. Like he's like, man, like, you know, you're making sales online, you're growing. But he's always been kind of like that working man of like, you need to have a job, you need to wake up, go to work. And by doing this, but like, because don't forget, when I quit electrical, I quit randomly, and I came home and I was like, Dad, like I quit. And he's like, what? I didn't even talk to him about it. I just quit because I was so done. Like in my heart I was done. And then and then I did music, for 2 years, man, like hard.
Yeah.
And then eventually like the goals came. I was like, well, what do I want?
I know you mentioned this in your podcast, but are you still single or you engage?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm so dedicated to this stuff. Like, it's just my life. Like, it's just who I am. Eventually that stuff, like, see, the world tries to push things on you, right? Like, oh, you have to have a boyfriend, you have to have a girlfriend, you have to be married by the time you have to have 2 kids, you have to have, like, you know what I mean? And like, I feel that, man, it's going to happen when it happens. And when it happens, like, dude, it happens fast. Like, you know, like if I meet like a girl and then you get married, it's like, man, that could happen in like a year for some people.
Yeah.
Some people even sooner, or some people longer, but man, it could be 1 year. And then before you know it, it's like you're married, and it's like, are you ready for this? Is your, like, man, if I was an electrician, cause like inside I was not happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, like, man, my nickname on the job site most of the time, like, don't get me wrong, like, especially later on, I was like bummed out, man. But my nickname on the job site was always Smiley Riley. So that was my nickname, because I was always just chipper. And I was like, you know, because like people would come to work and they wouldn't be happy. They'd be like, oh, like, and I'd be like, man, like, whatever, dude. Like, let's just go get it done. Like, let's just go do it. And they're like, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? I was always kind of like that kind of guy.
Yeah, I get it.
The world tries to portray something on us, and it'll happen when it happens. Yes, I am still single. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. At the same, I'm single. I'm still single for the last 2 years at least.
Yeah.
I don't have a family. I don't have any burdens, so I have nothing to fear of. You know, that's why
you can take the risk.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm also getting anxious if I'm progressing fast enough, because compared to a lot of peers, same age group people, they get married and they're successful business people in their world. So, but are they happy?
But are they happy? Right? Like, because man, sometimes there's like that fake persona of, oh, they have a family, they're married. But honestly, man, I was talking to my family just the other night, and like, man, growing up where I grew up, because my parents are still together, and most of the families where I grew up, most of the parents were divorced.
Yeah, same.
Right?
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, man, like, you know, do you want that? Like, okay, well, go ahead, get married when you're too young. And the thing is, things are expensive now. Like, back in the day, like, for my parents, it was like, if you worked a normal job, like, let's say at like a corporation or a bank, like, your job was able to buy you your home and, you know, maybe that boat and that, right? You were able, and now it's not really at that same point anymore. Right? Like, it's like, it's like your job can now probably just barely buy you the home.
Yeah.
You know, so things aren't easy, and it's easy to look at people and compare. And that's the biggest thing I can tell you with your music is, don't compare. You can get ideas, but where I suggest to get your ideas is by listening to your favorite music and not listening to what's on YouTube. You got to be careful on YouTube, because like, back, even for myself, when I used to make my tutorials, I was always still careful in what I was trying to teach, because I knew I was still young, but I was always kind of showing some tricks. I was like, these are the things you need. Like, check this out. This is helpful. Right. But I was always like, even if you've noticed, my courses, like, I really don't have a course on mixing and mastering. And the reason is because, man, those are professionals. Like, you
really,
like, because if you've experienced, you can make the beat now. You're learning the beat. Now try the mixing. And you're like, man. And what I do suggest to you is save a copy. So save a copy, and then that saved copy, use that as your mixing, and then compare it to your original. The biggest thing I could say is, you want to be inside the music program and learning, trying different things, like, you want to consume content, but don't get to the point where you feel that you need the content to do your own thing. Only go to the content when you're stuck.
Yeah. You really hit my heart saying that. That's my biggest struggle right now. I feel like I'm spending way too much time studying and learning, watching tutorial videos, but much less time inside FL Studio, you know, trying things out. I'm always afraid and scared. I'm not learning enough to do things in studio, you know?
Yeah.
You know that feeling, you know?
The biggest thing I could say to you though, man, is like, like be inside FL Studio and click around. Like I remember there was times where like I was learning just to create drum loops. So like drum loop after drum loop after drum loop. And then like, after I was done, I would literally just like open a new project. I wouldn't even save it, man. I would just like make a drum loop and it's like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And then play with different tempos, play with swing, learn how swing, like you want to be inside of FL Studio. And then when you get stuck, then search for your answer, especially because you've been doing this for 3 months. Like, man, for the first like 6 months, year, I was in FL Studio like every day for like hours and hours. And then like just, I don't even know what I was doing. Like I was just like learning different things and then like reading the help manual or like reading things like
F1.
It helps. It helps so much because if you go to YouTube and try to find out about that, it's going to take forever. But if you hit F1 and just like I showed in the book where they have the heat map on the image. So if you want to learn something about, you click it and you can search it and it's like you're flowing.
I'm kind of being a perfectionist, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to do things at the start perfectly. It's
I would say you're stressing me out. I'd say you're doing good and you're learning. But I would also say, even when you told me like you've like read my books and all the podcasts, but then like you haven't made many beats, I kind of thought to myself, I was like, man, like you got to be just in the program. Like, so just like, I don't think you're going to steer yourself wrong because you haven't released yourself. Right. So it's not like you have anything to, protect yourself or like I would just say let loose, man. Some of like your favorite music, like listen to your music and like, don't listen to it to copy. Listen to it to be like, listen to it, be like, why do I like this song?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so as I built my website, the type of music I was listening to was like Goo Goo Dolls and like Blink-182 and like Matchbox 20. I don't know if you know any of these names, but man, like they're not hip hop or beats at all. What I'm trying to get across to all students always, every single time is it's about creating good music. It doesn't matter what genre. Okay. It doesn't matter. Even if it was trap, I don't care. It's the fact that if you listen to that beat and be like, man, that was a good song. Like that was a good beat in terms of the arrangement, in terms of like, the different melody, I'm going to create this really awesome community of like real people, like this is not fake. It's not like I didn't pay you to be like, man, say a bunch of good stuff. Like, it's just like, no, man, like you found my stuff and it's useful. It's helpful. It's awesome.
All right. Thank you. I always want to say thank you face to face.
Yeah, man. This has been good.
Thank you so much.
This has been great.
For accompanying me in the last 3 months. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is just the beginning for you. And this is just the beginning of the new website, man. So yeah, man, be on the lookout. Some good stuff's coming.
Okay. I look forward to it.